Hey everyone, welcome to the WWE Summerslam 2016 review video here on NoDQ.com. I am Aaron Rift. I am not being joined by Jeff Meacham today. He was unable to make it tonight, so I have a substitute making his first appearance on a video with me. I am being joined by NoDQ.com's chat moderator, David Payne, also known as Smart Mark 420, or is it 420 Smart Mark?
Well, Twitter allowed me to have Smart Mark 420, but somebody got a Google account before me, so the 420 comes before it in the Google account.
Well, there you have it. So I'm guessing you're a pretty big fan of guys like Rob Van Dam and whatnot. Am I right to say
Yeah,
that?
not bad. Yeah, Val Venus. And
There you go. I get what you're saying there. All right, so very interesting show tonight. This was 6 hours, very long. Felt like it went on forever. And for those of you that cannot get enough of WWE, after SummerSlam, there's a Holy Foley premiere that you could watch, or you could even binge watch. There's 5 episodes of that. So WWE going all out with the content today. If you're a WWE fan and you just love WWE 24/7, today was your day. But for people like me, watching a 6-hour show, very long work day. I enjoyed parts of the show, but other parts I felt like it just dragged on way too long, and this was just too long of a show. I've said this many times over the past several months. These 4+ hour shows are overkill. What do you think? What were your overall thoughts on this show?
Oh yeah, I mean 6 hours if you include the pre-show and the matches that were on there, and yeah, to me, and at times it almost feels like it's forced, like they're just extending segments and they're showing a whole. I've never seen so many recaps on a pay-per-view show before. I mean, just so much to stretch it out, and not even the casual fan, but even the hardcore fan could lose interest after a while when it carries on that much.
Yeah, and a lot of people were criticizing the order of the matches. John Cena versus AJ Styles was the match that pretty much got the best reception on the whole show, but that was in the middle, and I've seen a lot of different opinions about that. So, yeah, the show was far from perfect, that's for sure. And let's break down this card here. We'll start off with the pre-show matches, the kickoff. It started with a 12-person tag team match. This was basically a rematch from SmackDown, so really nothing to it. It was Breezango, Ascension, and Vaudevillains against the Usos, American Alpha, and the Hype Brothers. The crowd booed when Gable tagged into Jey Uso. The crowd did not like the Usos, and that was a sign of things to come. I mean, usually you know what kind of reaction Reigns is going to get when the crowd boos the Usos. Everyone got in the ring and started brawling. Everyone hit their moves. You know, your typical match with all these guys in it. And American Alpha hit their big double team finisher. Jey Uso stole the tag and got the win for his team. So it's looking like an Usos heel turn. At least that's probably what they should do. So we'll see where this goes. Any thoughts on this match beyond what I just talked about?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just one of those matches to feature all the tag teams, in SmackDown and whatnot. And to me, it actually showed the lack of depth. You got American Alpha that just came in. They're super hot. They're obviously the top tag team right now. So, obviously they need somebody to feud with. And, yeah, I think the Usos are treated in the same breath. The only one that's exempt from that is The Rock, but, the Usos and Roman Reigns, they're just, they should both be heels, or all 3 of them should be heels. But,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the Usos are stale, and this would be the opportunity to do something different with them and change things up a little bit and really get the tag team division on fire. There's no strong heel tag team right now on SmackDown. I mean, you could say Breezango, they're the top heel tag team. That's not saying much. So turn the Usos heel, make them like the Wild Samoans, make them just vicious and do something different with them. I think that's the way to go with them at this point. But we'll see if WWE pulls the trigger on that. I'm not so sure if the Usos are going to turn heel, if WWE will actually go through with it or not. Time will tell on that. So, yeah, not much to it except for that little tease of maybe a heel turn from the Usos. We had a Baron Corbin promo. I mean, really, this kickoff show was designed to essentially get everybody on the show. everybody on the roster getting a spot on SummerSlam. SummerSlam's being built up now, like the third biggest show of the year, trying to make it almost as big as WrestleMania. And, there's an old saying, though, quality over quantity. That's really how I would describe SummerSlam compared to a show like NXT, which was, what was it, 2.5 hours? Perfect time, in my opinion, for a show.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, and there wasn't a whole lot of fill-ins. It just went from match to match. I mean, there was a little bit of a video package between some of them, but yeah, I mean, it was just nonstop wrestling action. It didn't feel forced,
Yeah,
Maybe they feel because Raw's 3 hours that the pay-per-views have to supersede the length of Raw, but I think you'd be better off going back to 3 hours for pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, I get that SummerSlam is a major show and you want to make it a bigger show, but I think making it 6 hours is not the answer, and trying to get every single person on the roster on the show is not the answer to making SummerSlam a must-see show. I think it's more about the quality and making it a memorable show. And
I couldn't agree more.
When there's so many things happening on this pay-per-view, you tend to forget a lot of what happened. And in my case here, I already have my notes up here because I forgot half the things that happened on this show, and we just watched it. So, that's definitely a major problem. So, yeah, we had Baron Corbin coming out, cutting the promo about Kalisto not being able to appear because of the injuries. So maybe the next pay-per-view will get that as the pre-show match. Backlash or whatever, it'll be Corbin versus Kalisto on the pre-show. Maybe if they're lucky, they'll get a spot on the main pay-per-view. So that was that. And then we had Sami Zayn and Neville versus the Dudley Boys. Again, just an excuse to get more people on the show. It's a shame Sami Zayn has come off several Match of the Year candidates, and he was on the pre-show here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, and, I was at Raw a few weeks ago in Detroit, and Sami Zayn worked the match, was the taping for Main Event or Superstars. Then he was in Raw, and then they did a dark match afterwards where him and Cena went against Rollins and AJ, and he's been a workhorse for them, and I felt he got shafted from a major show,
Yeah, him and Cesaro both, it felt like both of them deserved bigger spots on this show, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We had this match which continued the tease of a Dudley Boys breakup. Over the past several weeks, there's been miscommunications between the two of them. Bubba hit Devon with a clothesline by mistake, and then Neville hit the red arrow to pick up the win. A lot of people are asking me, maybe will we see Bubba Ray go back to the Bully Ray character? What do you think about that, or some sort of variation of that character in WWE?
Well, not to bash TNA, but besides this broken Matt thing, one of the more memorable characters is when Bully Ray was this heel and he was a champion, and he was over for those TNA fans. So I think he could do a lot better as like an edgy heel. Let him just go out there and be an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I have my doubts that WWE will pull the trigger on that because it would essentially be copying a TNA gimmick, and I'm not sure WWE is going to do that, but I think that.
But just have him be a singles guy. You can still call him Bubba Ray. You don't have to call him Bully Ray necessarily, but
just give him a little bit of that edgy character that he had in TNA.
A little bit of it.
Yeah, I agree on that. So we'll see if they go through with that or not. I mean, the Dudley Boys, they're essentially just a prelim tag team at this point. So,
to the stars, as they call it.
Yeah, I could just see them breaking up, having a match as a pre-show match maybe, and then no follow-up, and the two of them are never seen again. I could see that happening as well. I'd be surprised if WWE actually gave Bubba Ray a strong singles push as a heel with a similar character to what he had in TNA, but you never know. It could happen. You just have to wait and see.
Never know.
All right, the last pre-show match, the last kickoff match, was the first in the best of 7 series. And I don't know about you, but after watching this first match, I'm not so sure I want to see 6 more matches between these guys. Sheamus versus Cesaro. Cesaro did have a cool moment where he was standing on the LED post, and that was one of the changes for this pay-per-view. They did have a new set for this SummerSlam pay-per-view, and they also had LED ring posts. You had Cesaro standing up on the top of the post and using the ropes as a springboard. I thought that was cool to utilize the new LED post. Then Sheamus ended up doing a thumb to the eye and throwing Cesaro into the post and hitting the Brogue Kick for the win. as expected, Sheamus got the first win. Any thoughts on this match? Are you excited to see the follow-up matches?
Well, I would have been excited if it would have been Cesaro matched up with somebody a little bit better. I mean, I can remember years ago, um, Ric Flair and Steamboat, I think, had a best of three spread out on some WCW Saturday nights. And also, I think Ric Flair and Steven Regal, too, had some sort of where they couldn't hit each other, but it was a series of matches. And if you do that with two good wrestlers that have chemistry and that's exciting, then that, that could be potential for something. But I'm not the biggest Sheamus fan. No knock against him, but he's just, it's Sheamus, right?
He's a character that's going nowhere. And like you said, like, everyone remembers the Chris Benoit versus Booker T best of 7. I mean, that's what really made it famous. And Sheamus is no Chris Benoit or Booker T, really, with all due respect to him. I mean, it's more of his character, too. I mean, nobody really cares about the character. They just chant, "You look stupid" at him every match. And there's nothing on the line either. They're just doing it for the hell of it. I mean, I think people would care a little bit more if there was actually like a title or something to gain from winning this best of 7 series.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just it's already stale, and it's gonna get even more stale. And maybe we'll hear CM Punk chants by the 6th match. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. Next up, we had the first match of the main card. Enzo and Cass versus Jeri-KO. Enzo and Cass cut their usual pre-match promo. They made a bunch of New York references. Cass sang the Frank Sinatra song. Jeri-KO attacked them right at the beginning. And I thought this was an entertaining opening match. Very solid work from all 4 guys. In the end, you had Kevin Owens basically do the pop-up powerbomb where he sends Enzo up into the air. And Enzo landed right into Jericho's code breaker. They almost botched this. I mean, it was really close, but they did manage to connect, and Jeri-KO picked up the win here. What were your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, poor Enzo, man. He gets these close calls. Like, he really gets banged up in some of these matches. But, yeah, I gave it like a B-. I thought it was as expected. They're probably the 4 best talkers in the company right now. I mean, you throw Cena in there as well, but I like the dynamic, and I like how, Kevin Owens is always so vocal in the ring, him and Jericho's banter. It kind of reminds me, although they get along a little bit better, but it kind of reminds me of Benoit and Angle when they were teamed up and they had to just, make ends meet to make it work. So.
Yeah, exactly. And Owens was making fun of Enzo's strut. That was one of the highlights of the match. That was really funny.
Yeah, Kevin Owens is, to me, one of the most, if not the most entertaining, more complete wrestler that they got on the roster. He should get a push really
soon. So this was a good way to kick off the show. Next up, we had Sasha Banks versus Charlotte for the women's title. Very interesting situation here. I mean, going in, I expected Sasha to retain the title, no questions asked. But then the late betting odds came in, and Sasha went from being the favorite to being a heavy underdog, and all the smart money, I guess you could say, was on Charlotte to win. So at that point, a lot of people started wondering what's going on here. And as it turns out, apparently Sasha Banks was injured or has been dealing with injuries, and the decision was made to give her some time off and have her drop the title back to Charlotte. Just very interesting how this all played out. And during the match, there were a couple of scary moments. I don't know what was going on, but at one point, Charlotte had Sasha up on the top rope. I think she was going to try to do like a fall-away slam or something. But basically what happened was Charlotte just dropped Sasha to the mat, and Sasha almost landed head first. I mean, it was really scary. So what were your thoughts on this match overall?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as good as hyped, and I noticed a lot of maybe lack of chemistry, and I don't know if there was an injury involved or the reason why, but it seemed like there was a few times Charlotte had to sort of take charge of the match and kind of maybe call the moves and stuff, and it seemed like there was a few botches, and a couple times that Sasha looked like she got, snapped pretty hard. So, yeah, I don't know. It could just be a chemistry thing. It could just be an off night. I don't know. You expect them to perform really well on SummerSlam, but sometimes you have a bad night.
Yeah, and if Sasha was hurt going in, that would definitely explain why things were a bit sloppy with them at times, and just they did seem to be a bit off. So yeah, Charlotte regained the title, and Sasha is off the live events until the end of September. this could mean Bayley comes in and starts a feud with Charlotte. That's a possibility.
I hope so.
Interesting turn of events. I was definitely not expecting Charlotte to win back the title here.
No, me neither. It is what it is. And maybe Charlotte will keep it till the next major pay-per-view, or maybe she'll lose it rather soon. We'll see.
Yeah. Then we had The Miz versus Apollo Crews for the IC title. Not much to say about it. It was basically a SmackDown match, a SmackDown TV match. Miz retained with the skull-crushing finale, and decent showing for Apollo Crews, but I mean, really
superstars match to me.
Didn't really make much of an impact this match. So, you want to say about it, or just it was a match?
No, I mean, it is what it is. I just think they should do better with the IC title. I think that should be the workhorse title, and it's not. And it is what it is. It's a bit harder.
It was like a filler match basically for the IC title, which used to be like the semi-main event. Two guys that are on the verge of becoming main eventers going for the title instead of a guy who is at one time you believe he's going to be pushed like Apollo Crews, and then another guy who really had his best years 5 years ago. Those two guys that seem to be going nowhere, just having a match for a title. That's what it was.
Yeah, it is. It's not what it used to be. Some of my favorite wrestlers growing up used to be the Intercontinental Champion, and eventually they got that push. But it just seems like it's a mid-card placeholder title now.
Used to be like the Shawn Michaels and the Bret Harts going for the title, and now you got Apollo.
Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, Apollo Crews and The Miz. All right, so next up we have what many felt was the best match of the entire show. Maybe some would argue it was the best match of the entire weekend. John Cena versus AJ Styles. The crowd sang the John Cena Sucks song when Cena came out. Lots of dual chants. There were some pro-Cena chants, but a lot of people booing Cena. It was your typical big match, John Cena match, with a lot of near falls. AJ kicking out of the AA, Cena kicking out of the Styles Clash, Cena kicking out of the Phenomenal Forearm, Cena having AJ in the STF, and then AJ having the calf crusher on Cena, back and forth, your typical stuff, but the execution was great. I mean, I tend to complain about these matches a bit just because it's pretty much the same John Cena match every time. I mean, the execution is great. I mean, they're really tremendous in the ring, but I just don't like the predictability of it, at least in my opinion, seeing the same match over and over again. But, what they did, it was really well done. And the best thing about this whole match was the finish, which was AJ Styles finally being able to put away John Cena. Cena actually hit the Super AA, which AJ kicked out of. And by the way, I thought this was the first time that somebody kicked out of the Super AA, but apparently last year at Battleground, Owens kicked out of the Super AA, so it's not even like it was done for the first time.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I forgot about it too. I mean, we should remember something like that, right? That somebody kicked out of the Super AA, and that should be a really big deal. But it still was a big deal. Cena was in disbelief, which was a cool moment, and then AJ hit the second Styles Clash, and then another Phenomenal Forearm. And that was finally enough to put away John Cena. And Cena teased like this might be the end, like this was him passing the torch. He left his wristband in the ring and walked out and saluted the fans. And who knows where John Cena goes from here. So your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what the ending was all about. Obviously, he's putting himself in a position in Hollywood where he can retire and lean back on something like The Rock. But I 100% agree with you in terms of the match. The storytelling was great. I thought there were some facial expressions that Cena made that really kind of told the story. But you're right. It seems like a lot of Cena matches, you see a lot of main moves, a lot of finishers being used and being kicked out. And purists like ourselves, perhaps, and I know Bret Hart would be one of them to say that they're blowing their wad too early, so to speak, and they're just kicking out of everything. Maybe you should save those so they have more of an impact. But the execution, though, was beautiful. And those guys, they put on a great match. And as I said, alluded to before, perhaps that should have closed the match because the crowd's intensity for that match was at its peak, the climax, and then I felt it wasn't anything near that afterwards. But overall,
it never really got back to that level for pretty much the entire show. Maybe a few moments here and there the crowd reacted big. But, yeah, they were definitely the hottest for this match. And Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love the finish, and that's what I think was the most important thing for AJ to look really strong here. Cena's obviously got the American Grit season 2 that he's going to be leaving to film. It made sense for AJ to win here and be the top heel challenger on SmackDown for the champion. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, me as well.
All right, next up we had the New Day versus Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gallows for the tag team titles. I should note earlier in the show they had a reunion with AJ and Anderson and Gallows, and even Finn Balor came into the room. And AJ wanted a too sweet. Finn Balor just walked away, and the crowd took this as like a major diss that Finn Balor turned down the too sweet. That was a funny moment. Nice little nod to their association together in New Japan. You had Jon Stewart coming out. Crowd did not like him. He joked about how he was glad that nobody came out during AJ versus John Cena with a steel chair, because Stewart did that last year. He revealed a Booty-O's T-shirt and put on the unicorn hat. Stewart brought out the New Day. And the crowd was really quiet for this, as expected. This was pretty much the buffer match following AJ versus Cena. Really surprising lack of crowd heat, though, for a New Day match. I mean, considering how hot they've been, and especially in Brooklyn last year and this year, just there wasn't much reaction to them. There was a big pop when Big E came out. So basically what happened was Anderson and Gallows hit the Magic Killer. They were about to win the match. You had Anderson and Gallows on the verge of winning. Jon Stewart got in the ring. Anderson and Gallows were about to beat up Jon Stewart and throw him into the ring post, but then Big E came out, attacked Anderson and Gallows. That caused the DQ, and New Day retained the tag team titles because of the DQ. And you had Jon Stewart celebrating, and then he started gyrating, which at that point I had to turn away. So yeah, this was pretty disappointing in my opinion. Your thoughts on the match?
Oh yeah, it felt like another filler match, a cool down match, if you will. I'm not a big Jon Stewart fan. It's just one of those things that it makes me feel like it's the Raw guest host era again, and just kind of cheesy entertainment aspect. And no disrespect to Jon Stewart, he's all right, but I have a personal bone to pick with him because he always won the Emmy, and Bill Maher and everybody else never had a chance with him always winning the Emmy. But that's just my personal vendetta with the guy.
Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't really much. Just a little segment to get Jon Stewart some TV time and keep the feud going. Drag it out another month. Who knows? Maybe New Day will beat Demolition's record. They only got about 2 months now, so WWE just might drag this thing out and have them beat the all-time record, including Demolition.
Well, they seem to Demolition. They don't make much reference to them, and maybe it could have something to do with Barry Dorso being involved in that lawsuit or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, they probably will beat it. There's no other viable candidates right now, in my opinion.
Yes, definitely could happen. All right, so next up we have the WWE Championship match, Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. In my opinion, this was really disappointing. Not that it was a bad match or anything. It was very good for what it was, but the problem was the crowd did not care, and it felt like a mid-card match for the WWE title. It did not feel like the two best competitors in the world going for the richest prize in the game. It just felt like two guys that are somewhat big stars having a match on SmackDown. That's what it felt like to me, at least. Ambrose mocked Ziggler's tuning up the band, and not much in the way of highlights, just a fairly standard match between these two. Neither guy really played the role of the heel. It was basically just face versus face. I guess Ambrose kind of acted heelish a little bit, mocking Ziggler. I think the crowd was a little bit more behind Ziggler maybe at times. I'm not so sure. It was more or less 50-50 when the crowd was making noise, which wasn't often here. Same thing with kicking out of the finishers. Well, Ambrose kicked out of the zigzag, and then Ambrose hit Ziggler with the dirty deeds and retained the title. So looks like it's going to be Ambrose versus AJ, which it should be. Wasn't expecting Ziggler to win. No heel turn from Ziggler. We'll see if maybe on SmackDown WWE goes in that direction or not. I think he could have used it, but who knows? Your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, well, I didn't expect Ziggler to win, but I was disappointed. And I alluded to this in the chat on the pre-show, but New York crowds tend to be a little finicky sometimes. And I just felt if the crowd would have been a little more behind this match, that maybe they would have performed a little bit better. It wasn't really their performance, in my opinion, either, but it just felt, like you said, kind of generic, and I just felt that it could have been a little bit more had the crowd kind of been into it, and there really wasn't a big pop for anybody's moves, and there's a few cutesy things that Ambrose did in there, like when he shook the referee's hand. I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, other than that, I was really disappointed. For a title match, I thought, let's get into it, crowd, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I would blame the company more than the performers and even the crowd. I mean, the crowd, it's a 6-hour show, so you got to make the crowd excited and give them a reason to care about what they're watching. And I just don't feel the reason was there.
Yeah, I agree. I tweeted right away, as a matter of fact, instant tweet, if you will, about how the order in which they booked the matches should have been a little bit different, because the crowd was just, there were times ready to go home and put the kids to bed,
Yeah, that's the problem with the 6-hour show too. Going back to that, when you have a 3-hour show, it's a little bit easier to lay it out. When you have 6 hours and you have 13 matches, it's a lot more difficult to figure out how to arrange the show and keep the crowd consistently invested throughout the entire evening. And it's uncharted waters for WWE, because they've only been doing this a couple of times with these 6-hour shows. This year's WrestleMania and now SummerSlam. I just hope they start cutting back. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse to the ground here, but yeah, this show is just too long.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on that bandwagon as well. It's much too long.
Yeah, I think we'll probably say that a couple more times before this is over here.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Next up, we had the 6 women's match, the SmackDown match. Becky Lynch, Naomi, and Carmella versus Natalya, Alexa Bliss, and what was supposed to be Eva Marie. Eva Marie's music hit. You had the announcer doing the usual routine, and then said that she wasn't there because she had anxiety from the fans giving her a hard time. She was stressed out, and she was on vacation. So that was the official storyline reason for her not being there. We all know the real reason, of course, the suspension. Nikki Bella ended up making her return. She got a pretty big reaction from the fans, at least all the women fans in the arena. They were happy to see her back. And, I'm happy to see her back. Coming back from that surgery is definitely a great accomplishment for her. She did change her finisher, no more rack attack. No more messing up her neck with that, and her shoulders, and just having a safer finisher. What was it, like a TKO type of move?
Yeah, something like that. But it makes totally sense to protect her neck. Change it up a little bit. Steve Austin had to do it. He had to change his style after.
Yeah, so that was fine. Got the new finisher, no big deal there. Nikki did get the win as expected. Her first match back, you would expect her to get the win, and this was all right for what it was. Just pretty much another filler match, but it was cool to see Nikki back, and yeah, not much else to say about it.
No, it was cool to see Nikki back, but it did show the lack of depth in the SmackDown women's division. So I hope some more NXT women get bumped up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up we have the match to crown the first ever WWE Universal Champion, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, and this was something else. I mean, going in, I was not expecting the crowd to react in the way they did. They had the revealing of the new WWE Universal Championship, which was the WWE Championship with a red design. The crowd hated it, absolutely hated it. Everyone online seemed to hate it as well. I posted the poll on NoDQ.com, and something like 80% voted thumbs down on the new design. I guess a lot of people were hoping for something a little bit more creative. This was expected. I mean, going in, the big rumor was that it was going to just be like the WWE title, but with a red design, and it's looking like SmackDown's title is going to have the blue design. Very generic, but not surprising or anything. What was surprising was how negative the crowd was to the belt design, so much that it really took away from this match. It really hurt this match, because the crowd spent several minutes coming up with various anti-belt chants. They were doing the New Day chant, "This belt sucks." They were singing John Cena's theme to "This belt sucks," and there were a few other ones they were doing as well. The match itself, I thought, was really good. It's just I was just focused on the chants for the belt and all the negativity about the belt. So, what did you think of this match, and do you feel that the belt design really hurt the match here?
Well, what did you think about the belt? Honestly, it is pretty lame, isn't it?
I mean, I would have preferred like maybe reinventing the winged eagle, like coming up with an updated design of the old classic winged eagle. That's just
I
my
love the
personal
winged
taste.
eagle. That was
I,
my favorite belt design.
Yeah, I mean that was my favorite, but you know that was what we grew up with as kids, so you know that's what we're gonna like the best. But it would have been nice to have like a vintage feel. You know, I like how they brought back the classic IC title championship and have been using that for several years. Just not even the same exact design, just maybe like an updated version. But again, I'm not like a huge belt enthusiast. I know some people are. I mean, clearly a lot of people are because they buy the replica belts, and you know it's a big deal to a lot of people. Yeah, I felt they could have done something a little bit more creative. Again, wasn't surprised by it, and I wasn't really offended by it. And you know, it didn't bother me that much, but I was surprised by how the fans reacted, how negative they were, and they were almost hijacking the match with the belt chants.
Yeah, it was a very smart mark crowd right there for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent about the belt, but it doesn't matter one way or another. The match itself, it was good, but to me, it felt like it took a few minutes, perhaps 10 minutes, for it to really, get into it. And that could have been the crowd hijacking. It just felt kind of flat. But once they started getting into their sequence of moves and leading up to the finish, I thought it was really good. And Balor's so over right now, and he's got one of the best entrances. And imagine go to city with that. I mean, fans will really like that, and I think he'll sell a lot of merchandise as well. And he'll get over with the smart fans like us as well. I mean, he's a great wrestler. He's one of the top wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, so I definitely like the finish, and I like Balor winning the title. You know, being the first Universal Champion and being the first person. I'm not sure what they said exactly, but I guess he's the first person to have his first pay-per-view match on the main roster and win a world championship. I think something along those lines was the wording. I'm not sure exactly, but either way, it's history making for Balor to come in his first main roster pay-per-view match to win the world title or the universal title, whatever you want to call it. Great moment for him. Really happy he won the title, and you know, it was funny because the crowd cheered when Balor won the match, but then when Foley handed him the belt, they started booing again. So yeah, that definitely took away from it. But yeah, I'm definitely happy with the outcome of Balor winning the championship. Definitely felt that was a good move.
Yeah, he's definitely the one they should lean on right now for Raw.
Yeah. And then we had Rusev versus Roman Reigns for the U.S. title. This was completely mind-boggling. So here's what happened. On Raw, we had Roman Reigns versus Rusev in a lengthy match, and Roman Reigns won decisively. Then at SummerSlam on the pay-per-view, they shoot an angle. So it's basically ass backwards. You know, you would think that on Raw they would have done this angle where Rusev and Reigns are brawling and the referees are trying to break them up and they keep fighting and, you know, it goes back and forth. But instead we have the match on Raw and we have the angle on the pay-per-view. If this was the era where people were paying for $50 pay-per-views, I mean, it would have been a disaster. I mean, nowadays it's not as big of a deal because, you know, the network's $9.99 and people aren't paying that $50 fee. But still, I mean, it's just really weird how they did this, and the crowd hated it. The live crowd hated this. They actually started chanting "We want Slater" and even started chanting CM Punk. You know the fans are pissed off. You know the fans are pissed off when they start chanting for CM Punk. And crowd, of course, hated Reigns. The crazy brawl. Rusev was using the chair. Reigns was using the chair. Reigns came out and speared Rusev. Rusev was deemed unable to compete, so the match was called off. The whole thing was pretty lame. Would you agree on that?
Oh, it's 100% lame. And, nobody was enthused about this match going in, okay? But $9.99 or whatever or not, it's a major pay-per-view, and the emphasis should go on let's have our best match in this rivalry at this pay-per-view and showcase that, hey, maybe I should be the top guy. But to me, I don't want to say buried him, but it drops him down a little bit now, and you have power rankings,
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of them just shooting an angle when they should have done that on Raw and had the match on the pay-per-view. But whatever, I guess it was a cheap cop-out, so Reigns doesn't have to lose, Rusev doesn't have to lose, and they can drag out the feud longer and figure out what they really want to do with it, All right, so moving on here to the main event match, the Beast versus the I was going to say the Viper. I meant the Viper. I'm getting all tongue-tied. Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. Paul Heyman came out, did the intro for Lesnar. You had 4 people doing commentary. You had Ronaldo, Corey Graves, JBL, and Byron Saxton. By the way, what did you think of the commentary for this show?
Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, the SmackDown announcers call better matches. But, you know, you and I are on the same page with this. They should just go back to having 2-man announced teams. If they want to do 3 for the pay-per-view, okay. But the last 3-man announced team to work was Tenay, Heenan, and Schiavone, in my opinion. It just doesn't work. It's too choreographed, you know. But I do like Ronaldo. He's a real fight announcer. He calls MMA fights and boxing. So I do like his emphasis and some of the creative one-liners he comes up with. I find it funny how they cut Cole out of it, though. I mean, does that mean he's going to be on the B spot soon, or what?
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I really enjoyed Ronaldo's commentary. I thought Corey Graves did a really good job. JBL and David Otunga just aren't cutting it for me personally. Byron Saxton's okay, but I felt he was totally unnecessary being out there for commentary in this main event. I think it should have just been Ronaldo and Graves, and even Ronaldo, Graves, and Cole would have been okay with me. Adding JBL and Saxton there, you know, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, and it comes off as mindless commentary sometimes. Just, you know, it's like, okay, you didn't need to say that, JBL.
I mean, do you really need two guys that are basically serving the same role, and then JBL just shouting out his obnoxious lines that really add nothing to the match? I mean, is it really necessary?
I miss the old days where it was just like Gorilla Monsoon's the play-by-play guy, but he's for the heel, and Bobby Heenan's the color guy, or he's for the heel, and Gorilla Monsoon's for the, you know, the baby face, and they just get into banter between them two. You know, I'd rather have it that way than just too many, like you said, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. All right, so moving on here to the match. Orton went for an RKO early. Lesnar then started taking Orton to Suplex City, and I forgot how many he hit. I mean, he's hit so many at this point, it's hard to keep track. Lesnar and Orton fought on the outside. Lesnar put Orton through a table, and then Lesnar tried to put Orton through a second table, but Orton countered into an RKO. Orton hit another RKO in the ring. Lesnar kicked out. Orton went for a punt, but Lesnar countered and hit the F5. Orton kicked out of that, and at this point, Lesnar just lost his cool. He took off his gloves, and he just went total MMA on Randy Orton, just started punching him repeatedly, and at this point, Randy Orton just started pouring out blood like crazy. The doctor came out and was trying to attend to Orton. Lesnar kept punching away at Orton, and at that point, the referee just called for the bell, and Lesnar was deemed the winner by TKO. The crowd thought Goldberg was going to come out at this point. There was a loud Goldberg chant, and this would have been a great opportunity to bring out Goldberg, but it did not happen on this show. No Goldberg. Shane McMahon did come out and try to calm Brock down. Brock ended up hitting the F5 on Shane. Heyman was just frantic, yelling, "What are you doing? What have you done?" So it's kind of like when Randy Orton hit the punt on Vince years ago, and you know, everyone thought Randy Orton was going to be fired. I guess that's going to be the storyline here. Is WWE or the Raw brand going to fire Brock Lesnar? They'll suspend him for 3 months until he's ready to come back for the Royal Rumble. They'll do that storyline again. Like, we haven't seen that already. Didn't they do that with Michael Cole last year after WrestleMania 31?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, Michael Cole was taking legal action against Brock Lesnar, and then because of that, that was Lesnar being written off television. And then Lesnar broke Triple H's arm, and they wrote him off television for that, suspending him. So, yeah, they're really running out of ideas here for Lesnar. I mean, every time they have to write him off for 3 months, they just say, "Oh, he's out of control. We got to take him off television for a couple months." It's pretty.
Yeah, I find that kind of funny, really. I mean, everybody knows that he's just a part-timer. I mean, come on, just go with it, you know. You feel him.
I think it would have been a lot cooler to see Brock or Goldberg show up and confront Lesnar and set up something for maybe WrestleMania or even Survivor Series or Royal Rumble or something. But no Goldberg. I really did enjoy the match, though. I loved the finish. We never get to see stuff like that, you know, with guys bleeding that much and the match being stopped, a TKO, something you don't see that often in WWE. So I'm a big fan of any time something different is done and you change things up a little bit and we get a different finish, and it's not a match where you have 10 million near falls. So I like the variance and a little bit of different outcomes and a different story being told. So I was a fan of this. I know a lot of people are critical of it. I think it would have been stronger if Goldberg had shown up at the end, but nothing's perfect, and I'm hoping maybe they'll do something different other than Shane just firing Brock or Mick Foley, or who is it? Who's on SmackDown? Daniel Bryan. Who's the guy on each show? But yeah, I'd like to see something different. So anything you want to add? Your thoughts on the match and where WWE go with this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the finish. I kind of like it. It leads me to believe, though, I was told that they get fined for blading. So if they didn't blade, then it must have just been like, Lesnar saying, or Orton saying, "Here, take a stiff shot, cut me open." I don't know how he actually got cut open, but I didn't mind that, and it kind of opens it up for if you want to rehash this down the road, But I just thought that if Lesnar could be a mid-card match in WrestleMania, maybe they should have positioned this to be a mid-card match. And just, maybe, I don't know, just the ending seemed a little, I don't know, maybe fans felt like, well, we waited for this, I didn't have a problem with it personally from a storyline perspective, and I thought I liked the edgy blood, but, I think fans should have been left with like a really high-octane match and an awesome finish at the end, maybe that's why they're negative towards it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some negative reactions to this match, and I liked it, but like you said, maybe this would have been better off being second to last or third to last or something, and putting Cena and AJ on last, something where it's almost a guarantee. AJ Styles beating John Cena, that's pretty much a guarantee the fans are going to go home happy. When you do something like Brock beating Orton with a TKO and laying out Shane and then walking away, you're not sure exactly how the fans are going to react to that. It's taking more of a risk storyline-wise and creatively. So, I do feel maybe they should have done the order a little bit differently, like you said. But like I said, I enjoyed it, and overall, I thought SummerSlam was a good show. If you cut out a lot of the filler, and if it was just a 3-hour show with the best material in that 3 hours, then I would have definitely given this show a thumbs up. But the truth is, it was a 6-hour show, and that definitely dragged it down a bit. Now, on the NoDQ.com poll, it's 43% thumbs down, and that is winning right now in the poll results. Thumbs middle, 33%, and 22% thumbs up. So fans are not liking this pay-per-view, and I think a lot of it was just due to the fact that it was too long and too much filler.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, anybody, even the most hardcore fans, going to lose interest after that, that long. And maybe if some editor will splice it up and re-put out the 3-hour version, maybe fans will be like, all right, it wasn't too bad after all.
Yeah, like do we get like a Hulu version of WWE SummerSlam 2016? That would
exactly.
be
black and white screen for when Orton leads. It's PG.
Yeah, so 6-hour show. Where do you stand? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs middle?
Well, I mean, for a 6-hour show, the format itself, thumbs down. For the show overall, the SummerSlam, it was good. It wasn't bad. But if you're trying to compare it, like a hardcore wrestling fan, to last night's show on NXT, I'm kind of liking NXT. I mean, it was action-packed.
I mean, I think if I took the best 2.5 hours of SummerSlam, maybe it would be at a similar level as NXT TakeOver. But just NXT TakeOver, 2.5 hours, everything had a purpose behind it, and you got straight to the point, no filler. Everyone got over, even the people that lost in the matches. And I loved the entrances. It felt like some of the entrances were disappointing for SummerSlam. I mean, Balor had his huge entrance, but you would think like maybe they would have done something a little bit extra for Orton and Lesnar's entrances, just because it's SummerSlam and it's such a big deal. But that's just nitpicking, I guess.
But dude, nothing's going to compare to Glorious. I mean, I still can't get that out of my head.
That and Nakamura's entrances to me were better than anything at SummerSlam. I hate to say it.
Those were.
I'm going to remember more than the matches at SummerSlam. Although I like I said, big fan of AJ winning, and fan of Balor winning the title. Not a fan of the title design, really, like a lot of people. And we'll see what happens with Brock Lesnar and if they do something creative or if they just write him off, like they've done several times already. All right.
Brock works when he wants to work.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that'll wrap it up for our WWE SummerSlam thoughts. Thank you for being on, David. It was great having you on. Any plugs you want to get out there before we sign off?
No, just if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at SmartMark420. And I just want to thank you so much for having me on. And I know I can never take Jeff's place, but I hope I did a good enough job filling in for him today.
I thought you did a great job. So we'll see how the fans react to it. The people on YouTube, you might have a couple of haters. I'm not going to lie to you.
Probably. A-type personality.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding the SummerSlam fallout, and we will see you guys next time.